In this live coding session, let's start with a unit test on a SwiftUI view. Yes, a unit test. And see if I got it to work. And let's see if we can't start from that point and begin growing it into a game. Hello, welcome to the Quality Coding live stream. And greetings to the folks who are already here, Mudshark and Dan and Al. Good to have you. As always, you really help give me the energy I need to keep going with this endeavor. And it is fun. I like it. Let's see. Oh, hey, El Tigre. Welcome. Yoster Carey. Oh, iOS. Is that iOS or Yo's? I don't know. So, what was I just going to say? Oh, yes. For those who are watching on after the fact on YouTube, welcome. My name is John Reed. I am a technical coach, work with software teams around the world. Welcome, Elkin. Let's couple quick announcements. So there is this thing I posted of like, where will I be? And I just got back from Agile Open Northwest. It was fantastic. Fewer people this year, but no less amazing. I think the general consensus for everyone every day was, I am so tired because my mind is exploding because of all the ideas and interactions. And another common theme was, wow, it really is good to be with people in the same physical space that we do stuff online, but it's not the same. It is just not the same as being able to sit together. I had a lot of wonderful experiences. I came away with some new books. I got Liftoff by Diana Larson, the mom of in the room of Agile. So Liftoff is about how to start and sustain successful Agile teams. I got that. Of course, I got her to sign it too. And James Shore has updated his master volume, master edition to a new second edition of Agile development. This is a book of how to do XP. If you're watching and you're like I'm thinking about you, Dan. Like I want to get better at extreme programming. I'm pretty good with some of the practices I've seen from John. That's where I was. I was like, I'm doing okay with test-driven development and refactoring, and unit testing in general and so forth. But I knew there was more, and extreme programming is that more. And this is a masterful book. And of course, I got him to sign it too. That's something I've missed. I like going to conferences and getting folks to sign. Speaking of, if you come to Swiftcraft in the UK and you have a copy of iOS unit testing by example, I, of course, would be happy to sign it. Yeah, check it out, Dan. It's big, it's fat, it's kind of expensive. Brace yourself, because look at this thing. It's 500 pages of gold, freaking gold. So wonderful people. Yeah. So if you come to Swiftcraft in the UK, I'll be there. The author's name is James Shore. I'll put it in here. Author James Shore. And the book is The Art of Agile development. So, and the other thing I'm working on is my industrial iOS development workshop. You can find all these on my post, Where Will I Be? That's enough of that. Let's get into the stuff. Also, a quick announcement in case anyone needs to run off. I'll repeat this again at the end. Next week is Easter. That's the holiest day in the calendar for Christians. Well, let me modify that. Next week is Easter for those from the Western traditions. I don't know if you're an Eastern Christian, I don't know your calendar. I'm sorry. But anyway, for Western Christians, next week is Easter. So I'll be off. I'll be taking that off. All right. So no stream next week. Let us get into Mastermind. We are working on evolutionary development, evolutionary design, and we've pared down the game of Mastermind. Here's the game again. Say if I... interesting. It's some things to bear in mind. When there are multiple pegs, I can select which one will be the next target. Like that. So that's something to keep in mind. We are starting from the slimmest, smallest thing we could figure out, which was you get one hole, one color, and one round, and you tap it and you win. The idea being that we want to not build up an entire view, we want to build up functionality and grow it. And every week after the stream, wow, it's weird to see my face. Get off of there. I post recordings of this stuff, and of course they go up on Twitch, and they stay there on Twitch for what, 2 weeks? I think it's more than a week now. But after that, they're gone. They're all up on YouTube. And as I note here, thank you, Alkin, for suggesting that I use foreground color instead of fill. And then things got worse. So we used to have fill. Looks the same as foreground color, but fill doesn't have an attribute in View Inspector. That's the other thing I had to wrestle with, was View Inspector doesn't seem to have a circle. So I was like, oh no. But I think it was Mudshark. You said a circle is a shape. And lo and behold, there is a shape. So my test, we are starting, and this is something Llewellyn Falco does. It's great to hang out with him. One of the highlights of the Agile Open Northwest is late night coding. And coding in an ensemble or a mob with Llewellyn facilitating or being part of it. It's just great. I learn stuff every time. And something that he teaches, it's all in all of his videos, and I even copy it in one of my videos, but I want to make more and more part of what I do, is when you're writing a test, put it in a comment in English or whatever your language is. Describe what you're doing, break it down until it makes sense, and then turn that code, or turn the comment into code. So our comments are: make the content view, find the circle, and test that the fill color is red. All right. So make content view there, it makes it. Find the circle. So this is where View Inspector comes in, and we have to say try, because if it can't If it can't find the thing, it fails. So we say view.inspect. I want to inspect the thing, look for the shape, and get its foreground color. This returns a color, and then I can test that the color is red. Like that. Now, to prove it, let's change it to blue. This should fail the test. Aha! Let's look at this, and look at that. Okay, so with that, I'm ready to get rid of the comments. I like using blank lines to separate the three A's, arrange, act, assert. So it may be unnecessary for something so short. And maybe I'll keep it short for now. But something to keep in mind as the tests grow. All right, so I am going to, well, first commit this. I remove some comments. Oh, and whoops, the test fails right now. I forgot. Let's get back to green. Okay. That's better. By the way, for those of you who are thinking about using Arlo's notation or have been using Arlo's notation, I got to sit down with one of the people who works with Arlo on the notation, Jay Bazuzzi, and he showed me that there is a V2 in progress. Arlo and folks have been discussing it for some time. And it's going to be interesting and really helpful, because apparently what Arlo noticed is that people spend time thinking about what is the first column, because we're left to right people in a left to right writing language. For those of you who are right to left, it might be different. People tend to think about the what it is first and the risk later. And he's like, I want people to, the whole point of this is to annotate risk. And so they're talking about putting the risk first. For example, saying this is remove comments. I'm just going to call it. So it flips it. I don't know that I'm ready to start this yet, in part because it hasn't settled. And I do have some questions about it. But the idea is risk goes first, and then the what goes second. For now, I'm going to say this is good enough. Push. All right. Chart suggests blank lines to be consistent. Why not? Refactoring. Let's do some refactoring. This thing is called content view. That's not a great name. And the placeholder tests are still called placeholder tests. So this isn't content view. This is like the game view, the board view. Ultimately, at the top level, it will be this whole screen. Oh, that's a thing. Maybe we should call it a screen. That's a convention I'm seeing from some folks online. That seems like a useful distinction between what is the screen that assembles all the pieces and what are the pieces. And right now, we don't really have pieces yet, but it's inside of a screen. So this is like the game screen. Let's start there. Let's do some automated refactoring, and let me see if I can remember my shortcuts. Game screen. And that looks like it renamed. Yeah, it renamed the file as well. All right, so that should be fine. So that is an automated refactoring. I've started work on provable refactorings because I got to sit with the people who do provable refactorings. So far, it is testing the drawing of the pegs, but I intend to grow the game board in this place. So will this get extracted into a view? Oh yeah, later. So that's a rename. Right, that's what we called a game screen. And let's do, this is not placeholder tests anymore. Again, will these get pulled out? Yeah, probably. But right now, it is what it is, and it's where it is, and I just like having it get settled. And let's add those blank lines. Arrange, act, assert. Rename test suite. All right. Now, let's go to the Miro. All right, we're all agreed on blank lines. That's good. So, yay, test circle color is working. It's a crude layout, but we now have something testable. So the next thing I want to work on is that tapping the hole sets the color. Right now it is a color. Maybe it should start as no color and then it fills it. And let's have a look over here. All right, maybe get some colors in place. What have we got here? Whoops, how do I lock this? Help me, digital color meter. There is a command to lock it. Lock position. Okay. Lock position. There we go. All right, so let's set the color to that. And let's start, well, I want to change this. Altigra, do you prefer to have a test file for each production file being tested, or to have a test file per concept, even if it executes code from more than one file? That is, if you refactor a file and extract code to a separate file, do you create a test file for the extracted code? Very good question. I do not. if the test is working from one place and I move it, I do not move the test to follow until it makes sense to do so. So what we want is not unit tests. The trouble, of course, is no one agrees on what the unit is. In my mind, the test is the unit, and there doesn't have to be, like, if we continue to operate at the game screen level, that might be okay for a long time, and it may be later on it becomes painful to do that, in which case we'll extract. When a view is extracted, it might make sense to have a testable view. So it depends on what makes the testing easy. But I don't want to be bound to that. All right, so test. I want to say tapping circle turns it orange. All right, so we make a screen. We want to arrange act assert, and the shape is changing. We want to tap the circle, and then we want to inspect the color and have it be orange. So this is where we say try. Oh, is it not a button right now? Okay. Let's see if we can't code this anyway. Try view, inspect, and I want to find a button and tap it. Now, we may be running into some trouble here because we now have two different ideas. One is that there's a shape and the other is that there's a button. Right. So El Tigre is pointing out something good, and that is that when you have a state test, a change of state, the foreground color changes. It can be useful to have a check before the tap to say, it better not be orange already, otherwise the test will pass by accident. And that is a good point. Needs to be var. When I have state change tests, I like to mark the first one with a message of precondition, and it goes in the arrange part. So it is not the goal of the test. I want to be clear that this assert is not the assert of like, what is the test trying to test? It's testing, have I got the state set up just so in the arrange part so that when I act, we see the change. Is the hole and the peg the same view? You mean, well, I don't know. We'll find out. So, can we abstract that detail to a helper method? View user tap circle or circle color. Yes, probably so. But right now I want to start with something simple, and then we'll that'll probably become really helpful, Dan. I really like it. So this will fail, and it'll fail right here because it's red. Whoop. I thought it would fail right there. Oh, red is not orange, so it passes the precondition, right? If this becomes orange, it will fail for a different reason up here. Yeah. So we don't care what it is, what the color is at first. We do know that there is no button to tap at this point. There are gestures in SwiftUI that I am not that familiar with, so I'd rather work with a button just to make my life easier. So I think we have the barest beginnings of a test. It's not great. And let's see what happens if we stick a button in place. TDD, we have a failing test, and it will help guide the design. More from the perspective of the test, do we care specifically that it's a button when we are interacting with it? Well, the test has to target something, and View Inspector has to say, I'm pretty sure tap only exists on buttons. There will be other gestures. Let's see. Tap gesture. I'm trying to understand these tests, and it looks like there's yeah. There's a set of common gesture tests. No, I'm not understanding these yet. Okay. Hey, Dustin. Perhaps distracting, but what are your thoughts on having to use View Inspector to test these views? Well, I wish Apple would provide something. Hey, Apple, why don't you hire the guy who wrote this? That's what I think. Sorry, you got the bit of the grumpy old man coming out. I think right now we want to tap a button, but first we need to find it. First it needs to exist. Let's start at that level. And let's put this circle inside of button action something label. Something. There. So now we have that same circle. This will fail because, and now I don't think it will be, I think it will tap the button successfully, but I don't think it'll find the shape. So I predict that it will fail on this line. Oh. And this is where what I learned from Ted M. Young, or Jitter Ted, who is a prolific streamer who got me into streaming in the first place. He's very clear that when you're doing TDD, you shouldn't just say red. You should call out specifically where and why and what the message should be, so that when there is a surprise, Then there's something to learn. And now this is messing us up. and it reveals why having a helper, as Dan suggested, will be important. So let's find, to get this shape, I think maybe we can just give it, can we find the shape? View dot inspect dot find. All right, let's go to the do. Let me bring up the docs. I think that's what we have right now. Oh, right. The shape is inside the button. That will work for now. You're right. I want to move away from that, but right now we want to get, and here's that stinky smell. I just made the change in 2 places, right? Button shape. Oh, that didn't work. Perhaps we shouldn't test that we specifically tap a button. It should test that something happens when you do. Yes, that is what we're trying to get to. That is, the tap is the act, and the outcome is that the color changes. But right now, we're backed into a corner. We got to get out. Let's see. To search the view, find. Find is how I prefer to do it now. It used to be very fragile, and that there was no find. All right, these are annoying me. Let's see if we can't get it right. Let me just try up here. Thank you. Inspect. Find. There's find button. With a string. Right. That is where we will want to. So I'm saying right to Mudshark. The thing he's pointing out is that we are tying the, something has to tap a button. So the test essentially right now is expressing that and hard coding that there is a that there's a button to tap. But what if we change to gestures? And so then that's a good call out, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. That we'll probably want to abstract this so that we can change it in one place instead of 1,000. Alkin, button label view. And so the shape is inside the label view. Got it. Thank you to Dan and to Alkin. Let's bring these back. Let's stick this in. Stinky duplication. So we have duplication, and we have a hard-coded sort of expression of what is the action. Let's see if this fails down here, saying it's not orange, it's red. I think we made it to a failing test. All right. Now comes the fun. On tap. So there's going to have to be some idea of setting a color and having it update or having it trigger what goes in here. All right, let's see if we can't do that. Help me. I'm saying let button color I'll just start it at red at first. Basically, okay, let me try this again. So this is .red. Its full name is color.red. Can I take this and let's see what we get. Extract to a variable. Man, Xcode, your extract variable stinks. Now, maybe because we're in SwiftUI, and it's like, yeah, you don't want to have variables. All right, let's go with what we have here. So let's make this a state. Thank you for calling that out. And help me with my understanding. State so that when this changes, we re-render. Bar button color, and I'll start it at red. Color dot red. So right now, we should have the same thing, which I can test right here in the preview. Okay. So, and this should fail in the same way as it did before. Good. So now we can say button color equals, what was it? Orange. I predict this will pass. It it did not. Boo. Okay, what happened and what's going on? These are the things we need to push through. Is it time sensitive? I don't want to create another view, do I? The update might not be immediate. Well, let's find out. I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was. Oh, right. There was this thing. Okay. So state does have a special casing. As far as view inspector goes. Let's. Right. So we've got inspector. And state is what we want, right? These days, especially. I mean, before too. This is simple SwiftUI code. It's consider you have a, this seems like the right place. Consider you have a view with a at state. This is very much like what we have. We have a button that is toggling a flag. You can inspect it after adding these two lines. 1 and 2. So this is unfortunate, but it is what we have to do. And sometimes even in UIKit code, I would have to add some things to the production code to make it testable. And this is sad, right? It's unfortunate that we have to do this, but testability matters more to me. You can inspect it after adding these two lines. 1 did appear. Then what? Tap. Exactly, Grant. Sorry, guys. Okay, so SUT on did appear. Right, so basically it looks like we need to have it trigger a thing that says, hey, thing changed, and so that the test can respond to it. Something like that. Womp, womp, womp. Well, let's do it. Internal, that's an interesting choice. It's interesting to call it out explicitly as internal. Get rid of the comment. I don't fully understand Grant, but I kind of understand. All right, so after all that, we put an on appear. And this should continue to fail in the same way. Okay. Next. Should we really test that state works? What I really want to test is that the color changed. So the state, like how that does, maybe we'll get there. We'll find out. All right, so expression. I also don't like, man, what? Why do we have to do all this? One thing, so we are not using XCUI test, to be clear. Thank you, and hello, Silverback Swift. Oh, would we not use XCUI test to test UI behaviors? No, we would not, because the purpose of UI tests is not to do UI testing. Sorry, everybody else in the world. This, so we are trying to TDD our view here. We are trying to TDD our view, and I am a contrarian because I wrote that. My whole view beforehand was to start in UIKit, even though if you go out and read people like Martin Fowler or G. Paul Hill, they'll talk about testing UI is hard. And so we want to isolate things and basically work in models up to the UI. And that's very common. And that's not how I like to work, because with UI testing, UI kit testing, I was not using UI tests. I was using internals to poke at things and say, let's pretend a tap happened, do the thing. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I want to say, let's pretend the tap happened, simulate the tap, as it were. This is not an actual tap. So it's different than coming in from SwiftUI. After I started to write unit tests when using SwiftUI, I started to put all the state variable into the view model, and it allows me to test those kinds of situations easily. Yes, I'm sure it does. And I'm sorry, I'm not being dismissive here. That's absolutely right. I want to evolve my way there, right? So, and to do that, I want to learn how to use View Inspector better. And it's changed. View Inspector has gotten better. But I want to learn how to use it better so that design decisions about where things go and what to test, I can defer those decisions, and I can refactor my way there. That's how I've typically operated with view models. When if you look at my videos or read my book, the tests I do for a view model are not at the view model level. They are at the UIKit view level, the view controller, I should say. And the view model then becomes an implementation detail. And so that's why I can say, let's replace MVVM with MVP and do that all supported. Great discussion, by the way. This is exactly the kind of fun stuff we are here for. UI tests are a very different thing. They have a different role from unit tests. So I said UI tests are not for testing the UI. That's, in my mind, a UI test is the same as what you have with a Selenium test. That's like poking something from the outside. That is an end-to-end test. Its only purpose is to test that things function end-to-end. It is not to test functionality. So thank you, everybody. Hey, and thanks Silverback for throwing that in there. Yeah, exactly. This is a trial. I've done a little bit of it before, but View Inspector has changed. It used to be that we had to do more. It used to be worse to get something, a state change, testable. And I'd forgotten this. But now, let's see, having added just those two things, we used to have to add extensions. Yeah, Grant, UI tests are integration / end-to-end. They test, do the pieces all fit together? And hopefully all the pieces are tested well before that. I would like to get through this project with exactly 0 or 1 UI test. How's that for a goal? All right, let's see if we can't get back here. So it's on did appear, the view in. All right. Let me just blast this over here for a second. Let's follow this. So we make the content view, or the view, and then we say on What is this? / view did appear. Then we have a closure. And something that I dearly miss from app code. By the way, I could use app code for this. But kind of to live in the same world, I'm sticking with Xcode. One thing that app code does really nicely is say, you want this to be a trailing closure? Psh. You want this not to be a trailing closure? Psh. Okay, so it has to be a var. That makes sense. The view has to handle change. So now I'm going to move these up because they don't need, they're not the part that we want. Now if we try, and I'm just using silly naming here. Not liking this so far. This is wrong. This is V. Yes. All right. I'm not liking the shape of this. But let's see what happens. And I'm going to leave out the hosting and the wait to see if this will work. And it does. Does it work because it didn't hit the assert? Like, what if I change this to blue? Will it fail? Oops. So that's no good. Why do I have to host the thing and wait? Oh, man. Okay. It failed not for the reason I wanted, though. We want to turn the circle orange. This will fail again. And we're still not there. Crap! I thought this would be easy. Either I'm rusty or it's hard, or both. Oh, by the way, sorry, I couldn't see your chats. That is a definite drawback of me slapping that over that part of the screen because I've got my little helper monitor doing something else. All right, sorry folks. Interesting. Environment objects, binding variables, view extensions, all these things. Yeah, it's like you can get the bindings into models, but it can be finicky. Perhaps it should be something other than view. I think you need these, or the test finishes before the closure executes. Yeah, that's what kind of what we discovered. Right. First, make it work. I think you're tapping view. Ooh. All right. Sorry. Lesson learned. John, don't either don't cover over the nice chats or keep them handy on a phone as well so that I can see when y'all are saying something. Apologize for that. Okay, let's see if we can't get this. Yeah. Let's maybe use the example names so that we don't clash. Okay, so let's do some renaming. SUT. Oh, there is clashing here. Yes. All right. I was going to do a rename, but I'm afraid it would rename all the wrong things due to the clashing. All right. So SUT is the game screen. And this one, we'll continue to inspect that. This becomes view. And we shouldn't have to inspect this now because it's already inspected. And this becomes host the SUT. Right? Will it fail because it says, It passed. The question is, did it pass because it did the thing? It sure looks like it. That's the only presence of orange. So if I get rid of that, this should fail. Saying, it's not orange, it's red. All right. Okay. Okay, so we got thrown off. More lessons here. We're all looking at this going, oh. I'm not sure what we're looking at. This, wow, whole lot of stuff. So let's first, we're green. I'm going to commit this sucker. First, let me get rid of this clutter. And that's enough for now. Let's get this in. So that was a lot. This is tricky, but we're getting it. This is probably why people don't give up. And where I think my super strength is that I'm going to be stubborn and not give up because I know how I like it to be. So this is a feature. just to show what we're working with. So we did a number of changes. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a lot. That's a lot of change. So I was trying to determine, was it just one line? You know, was it just setting the action in a label? No, it's multiple lines here. And so for that reason, I feel like this is a risky change. Tapping circle turns it orange. All right, let's push this. Woo, we're already at time. Why don't we wrap up by spending a little bit of time trying to understand this? What's going on? The issue was that John was comparing the color of the non-inspected view, now called SU2, against the color we expected it to be. I guess we only the inspected view responds to change. It was hard to see what was going on because, as Mudshark pointed out, we had variable name shadowing. You know, view is like, what the heck was view? It depends. So let's see what we have here. And let's see, like, do I need this? Yes, I do. Do I need that? I think if I don't do that, it'll pass even if this is some nonsense color. Oh, not in this case. So I don't think the wait for is necessary here. Wait for on did appear. It returns an expectation that we wait for. Okay, so that's nice. Yeah. Is this going to fail? Now it calls appear whenever the view changes. So we set up as an action to perform this before the view appears. So some of the magic here. We've got did appear, which we are calling with self. And it's optional. That is, you know, maybe there's nothing there. I think the hosting view triggers the SwiftUI view lifecycle. We then call that closure and provide game screen. From there, we do our actions and assertions. That's starting to make sense. And we say, okay, so on did appear, do this thing. I feel a little nervous about getting rid of this timeout. You know what I mean? Right, exactly. That's the danger, is that since the assertion is inside of a closure, I wonder if there's another way to do this. Let's get back to passing. What I usually like to do, anytime I have an assertion inside of a closure, is I like to move it out. What if we move it out? Oops. Wrong buttons. Is this? That's not it. There we go. This gives me more confidence. Because this will prove that the closure was hit. The timeout is not going to make a difference. In fact, now I feel confident getting rid of it. The thing with a timeout on an expectation is that as soon as the expectation is triggered, it passes through. So the timeout could be, the timeout is essentially how long does it take for it to fail. Passing should be super fast. But I don't think I need it now. If we move it out, get rid of that. You may wrap the whole expectation in the wrapping into a helper method and return the result you're expecting. Nice. Run it 1,000 times. Class is passed by reference, struck by value. Everyone wants to see it run 1,000 times. Y'all want to see it run 1,000 times? Let's do it. How do we do that? First, let me commit this. So this is a test-only change. And it is move assertion out of closure. I really think this is important. I've got... I won't bother showing you the article. So 1,000 times. Is there a way to do that here? Okay. Repeatedly. Thank you. I predict that this will pass just fine. Not bad for 1,000 times. So there you have it, 1,000 times. It's all good. Lessons learned, and I feel like we ought to note some of these things and start doing retros. Where is my... There. All right, so we got this to pass. But I do want a retro place. Like, what are some of the things we learned? Well, definitely something I want is when copying Make this bigger for you. That's one. Move assertion out of closure. It's really for test safety. Assertions, I do not want them in closures. I want to capture whatever I want. So here's the capturing. Capture that, and then check the result. It looks like view hosting is a trigger. Starts lifecycle, and that seems to be important. SUT. Like, why did this have to be? All right, so on. So here we are in SwiftUI. In View Inspector. So this seems to be part of the design, is that on something, the whole point is to let it mutate. So that makes sense. All right. Let's wrap up with this. Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to put in here? Just put it in the chat of sort of learnings. Oh, there was sort of the whole thing, the on appear. Having to add on appear triggering did appear. Of course, did appear is just a name. We can rename that to whatever, like trigger or redraw, re-render. That might be nice. On render. Except it's not a rendering. It is simply passing. Oh, it's passing the new self. Help me understand here. Did appear is a closure. And it's passing the mutated self at the time. Yeah. This is a struct because everything in Silverback, everything in SwiftUI basically is values. That's just, and structs. That's just how it is. I don't know if that helps you. Yeah. Hello, Hexada. I have no idea what Malbog is, but we are here working in Swift, writing SwiftUI and testing it. And so we'll wrap this up. I keep saying it. On appear trigger and that leads to, on the test side, get rid of this, a did appear re-rendering. Oh man, set it back. On did appear. So basically it is to deal with state re-renders, and by re-render it creates a new struct. That's sort of good enough for now. Any other thoughts, any other learnings from you? I think that's good. All right. Let's call it, folks. And we went over time. Thank you for sticking around. But I think that was worth it. Woo! All right. You know, it's not as easy as I would like. So new struct, is that the new SUT? Yes. I'm looking at the code and you can't see it. So we had to change this from a let to a var, because in this says it's going to mutate stuff inside of here. So there must be stuff in here. I don't know. We'd have to run some debugger stuff to find out. Anyway, this is a lot of fun. The first test is the hardest. We got it. Oh, sorry. Want to see it run? Let's run this sucker. Boop. Interesting that I didn't even think I needed to run it until then, because I was so confident. That is the fun, the value of bringing tests to your views. In the past, it was to your view controllers and views. Now, the struggle is real. A bit of ugliness where I don't like it. If we just think of these as idioms and understand, okay, so it's got to re-render, so it can't take the same value as before. It needs a trigger to say, things changed. Give me the new structure. And I think once we get comfortable with this, once we establish these things as, just shrug and say, it's the idiom, it's the way it works, then our minds will stop fighting us and saying, what is this ugliness? And just accept it. And then it will be easier going forward. So next time, I think we'll start off with some refactoring, maybe see if we can't change this into something more expressive. We'll see. Maybe not. In any case, come back not next week. Next week is off for Easter. And happy Holy Week to everyone from the Western tradition of Christianity who is celebrating this week. Our holiest time of the calendar year. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks a lot. See you in 2 weeks. Take care. Okay. Bye.